no chance.
What's up, everybody? Episode 69 of No Chance Podcast. As always, your host, Ryan.
And Nate.
And for those whose first time listening, maybe viewing, welcome to the podcast. This is not something that we normally do video, so if we look terrible, we don't have a makeup crew. I'm not going to lie. This is very, very odd. This is like very, very odd for us to do.
Yeah, I think it's been almost exactly a year since we last did video. But
yeah,
a lot of you guys have been asking about it, and honestly, this is a lot better than what we had before.
An amazing amount of effort put into this, mostly me, but a lot of the lights and stuff, man, like it looks like an actual production. So we appreciate you guys watching today. Before we get into the episode, we're going to get into a lot of streetwear stuff. Do not worry, but make sure if you like the way this looks and everything, make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a comment if you have any sort of topics or things that you guys want us to talk about in future episodes.
That's so weird. We have to say that.
It's very weird. Yeah. I'm not going to lie. It's very fake of me to say that. I'm not going to lie, but for those watching, just know that we put a lot of effort into making all this happen, and it looks, to be honest, it looks pretty fucking amazing.
I would say so.
Okay.
I hope so.
So if it's your first time viewing or listening, to a lot of those that are listening, it's probably your 69th time, right? It's our 69th episode. We talk about a lot of streetwear stuff, a lot of culture, and kind of how it relates to our daily lives, essentially,
exactly,
right?
exactly.
Right. But in the beginning of every episode, we like to shoot the shit. We have random topics, streetwear topics, culture topics, whatever, and we kind of provide our little 2 cents on what we feel about them. It's mostly hate. I'm not gonna lie. Most of the time,
the majority of it. Yeah,
the majority of
it.
We
should come up with a name for that segment, like at the beginning of each episode.
We should. Yeah. Whatever you guys think it should be called.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Yeah. Leave a comment.
But we'll get into the first topic, and it's the end of the year. It's December 27th.
It's the 27th.
Almost the new year, almost 2019. And what a lot of these publications, your favorite blog sites, sneaker sites do is they like to do an end of the year recap, and they say, what were the top shoes of the year? 2018, there was a lot of good releases. I'm not going to lie. It's probably one of the most heavily hyped up release year I've seen in a long time.
Definitely one of the best years in terms of releases, at least in a while. I think at least in the past 2 or 3 years.
There was so much hype around all the different releases, and we'll get into the top 3 in a second. But overall, how do you feel about 2018 as a sneaker release year?
I think it was a good year for sure. Just like I said, I think Nike definitely dominated this year. I think Adidas was kind of left in the dust.
No, they did. Yeah, I would say
they
that.
They definitely had some good releases, but I think Nike definitely took the cake in terms of who won this year.
Yes. Yes.
And as a lot of your blog sites like Hypebeast Complex, Highsnobiety, will state that. A lot of their top 5 is all Nike shoes. So
that's true. Hats
off to them.
Yes. I'd say my personal opinion as well. I would agree completely with you. Adidas really just fell off.
They're really quiet this year.
Obviously, the Yeezy conversation of quantity increasing, accessibility increasing, which is what their sort of mission was from the very get-go, kind of deterred it and turned it into that little downslope. Nike collaborated with literally every influencer you could imagine.
Yeah.
And that's really why they take the cake. But let's get into the top 3. Number 3, and we're going to go with Complex list because Complex obviously kind of runs a little bit of everything in regards to culture. I mean, it's a pretty important publication. I'm not going to lie. We'll be on there soon, someday, right?
Yeah.
Number 3, Complex basically states that the Union Air Jordan 1.
Okay.
Do you agree with that one? My favorite Air Jordan 1 release of the year. For sure.
Okay.
Hands down.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it's fair. I think it's a good shoe. Do I think it deserves number 3 release of the year? I don't necessarily think so.
Top 5 at least?
Top 5 for sure.
Okay. I'll take that.
I had a conversation about this with my girlfriend, and we were talking about, and I was basically telling her, I don't really know if I actually like the shoe. I just see so many other people wearing it, and it makes me want it. I feel like I'm missing out by not having it.
I think that's the whole point. I think that's the whole point.
But I like I said earlier, we talked about this a little bit. I enjoy the storytelling aspect. Like I enjoy the whole Rose Bowl thing that they did, setting up a
That was amazing.
and having like
marketing.
Sean Witherspoon. Yeah, that was That was an amazing marketing ploy. Like hats off.
It was almost believable. If
Yeah.
you watch it and you see the reaction of like Sean Witherspoon and Emily Oberg.
I believed it. I believed it for sure.
Oh yeah. And then I forget who it was that was like manning the booth, but I think he's like the owner of Union. I believe his name.
Wasn't. No, I don't think it was Chris Gibbs. It was somebody who worked there.
Yeah. But I would say definitely top 3 shoes of the year. Do you agree with that though? Like, if you could replace it with like another, let's just keep it in the family. Air Jordan 1. What would you put?
But first, like, check it. So nobody. Like I said before, nobody cared about Storm Blue 1s before Jordan did a collab with Union. You know, like those, those were shitting. Yeah, those were sitting on outlet.
Shitty. Those were
They were sitting on outlet shelves for like the longest time, but all of a sudden, like Union slaps those Storm Blues onto what was that? Like what was the upper? It was like the heel part.
No, I think the whole thing was a Storm Blue.
Nah, it was like
just the flaps that were different color, right?
But you know, like nobody cared about those before. And then the same with like the black toes. Like that's such a slept on Jordan 1, I think.
Yeah. Black toe. I think that's what the whole point was, right?
Yeah.
Like black toes when they first released, they released this year, right?
Either this year or last year.
Like late last year.
Yeah.
But both of those shoes super slept on, really low resale prices. And then to throw their own little mix in with like the stitching, like the very obvious yellow stitching was like amazing. Like obviously it doesn't really change. I mean, you get it in a different box, but for the most part, like it's not too different from what the original shoe is. I just think that the whole like the legacy brand of Union and the premium aspect that Union brings with the name, it's like it makes it more of like a sought out shoe, after shoe.
I agree. Like it's definitely a more sought out shoe because Union, like that name holds so much weight. It's such a staple in like the streetwear community.
Yeah.
But I think as far as like Jordan 1s in terms of the top releases, there were so many good ones this year. Like for instance, like the not for resale.
You like
Jordan
those?
ones? I don't like those, but like I like what
The execution, the idea, agreed.
But here's the thing: I like what it did for the sneaker community and the streetwear community.
Okay.
Because like it really, like you saw the videos of retailers fucking making people do push-ups or making people like do laps in their shoes before they can walk out. Like, I enjoy that because it's more about bringing back like that idea of, you know, like wear your shit instead of getting like copping this to like resell.
It's true.
And I mean, like
point.
to be fair, like
It's
there's
a good
nothing
point.
wrong with like reselling. Like I'm sure we've all done it before.
We
but
all still do it.
yeah, we all still do it, exactly. Like it's an easy way to make some extra money. But I think
Of course.
it's a great reminder as to like why we started enjoying sneakers in the first place.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to get them to wear them.
I think that was like a huge indicator that Nike still had like an ear to the streets.
Yeah, for
right.
sure.
It was like, I know what you guys are doing with our shoes. It's very, very obvious. We probably use you guys as like research studies to understand like how to release shoes. So it was like a cool ploy to be like, all right, let's see what you guys do with this one.
Yeah.
Definitely my top 3. Maybe not your top 3. Top 5-ish. I'll deal with that.
Sure,
That's
man.
fine.
All right.
Number 2 is an obvious one. I'm really surprised it wasn't number 1.
Yeah.
Sean Witherspoon Air Max 97 / Air Max 1 collaboration. That was, I feel like, the shoe of the year. I feel like it was. Partly because, first of all, it wasn't a shoe.
Yeah.
Right? It started this whole like Air Max mixing of styles thing, like legitimately like
hybrid.
Yeah, there you go. Good word. Hybrid Air Maxes. It introduced corduroy material. Obviously, it was like a material prior to, but it made its whole little like fad very early on once the shoe came out. And it was a shoe made by somebody in the community, like truly a part of the community. For those who don't know who Sean Witherspoon is, he's the guy who started Round 2. He does all like the shops pretty much all over the country.
Yeah.
But he was like one of the first guys to like, what was the what was it called? Was it vote your air back? Future.
I have no idea, but it was basically
It was
a campaign.
contest.
Yeah, it was a campaign for Air Max Day, March 26th. For those of you who don't know, But it was basically a campaign for Air Max Day. You know, you had several different, influential people in the streetwear community
Yes.
kind of design their own iteration of an Air Max shoe. And, like you had the opportunity to vote for it. So
Yeah, and that was one of the ones that won, and literally the corduroy and the distressing, and seeing all of your like favorite celebrities backing this shoe, like it really made it like the shoe of the year. I feel like it was around there was so much hype about it for at least like a good 5-6 months.
I think it was less about like the celebrity backing and more about, again, like the storytelling,
That, yeah.
Like, if you ever watch or if you ever listen to like Sean Witherspoon explain like the design process behind the shoe, he's like behind every step, like the
every
materials,
piece of it,
the
yeah.
colors, like he's sourcing or he's referencing like vintage Nike, like ads, like vintage Nike apparel, shoes, things like that. And I think it's the fact that he is such like a huge part of not only the sneaker community but the streetwear community that it's like it makes sense why that shoe would win, because like this person is one of us. Like this is a person who appreciates the same shit that we appreciate.
Yeah.
And it only makes sense. Like it's not like one of those collaborations, like, how Bape does like a collaboration with everybody.
Super forced.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like that. It seems natural. They go hand in hand. So.
Yeah. And you make a good point. Like it's somebody that comes from our community or our culture, right? So the attention to detail is like microscopic levels. Like
exactly.
to from the aglets to the fucking like distressing of the material. And I feel like it couldn't have been anybody else, right? Like it could have been somebody famous. They could have just did colors and all that other shit, put their logo on it. But it's different when it's somebody who actually appreciates the product. And it should have been shoe of the year, but it unfortunately wasn't. But based on Complex's list, the shoe of the year actually happens to be the Nike React. Is it Element 88? Or
Element 87.
Element 87. For those who don't know what that looks like, here's a picture of it. Picture pops up. This has been a shoe that takes on a lot of inspiration from, I want to say, like this whole like not chunky sneaker, but like minimal, very lightweight, almost like off-white reminiscent. Very translucent materials, random paneling. They did a collaboration with Undercover recently. I think that was maybe like the second rendition of like the shoes that came out. To be honest, I did not see this coming at all. This was not one of the shoes that I considered to be like shoe of the year. I don't know. How do you feel about it?
I actually like this pick as shoe of the year. I think it definitely brought shoes back to, that realm of innovation as opposed to just hopping on a trend.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people see the Element React 87 as just, another byproduct of this dad shoe, chunky shoe trend. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I thought it was.
Yeah. But I think Nike doing this really puts technology and innovation in terms of like sportswear like at the forefront. Like you have the React cushioning, which is like a brand new cushioning system for Nike, and you have
like top of the line.
Exactly. And then you have, of course, like the translucent panels, which are you don't really see very often. And I think in that regard it puts that shoe ahead, I think, of the other releases that we've seen.
I think it really dictates that of like you said, innovation, how shoes are going to look like in the future. I guess it does that very well, obviously, because it is an entirely new silhouette, an entirely new look, etc. I just don't know if I'm like shoe of the year nominee. You know what I mean? Maybe not even top 5 for me personally.
Really?
Yeah, not even top 5.
Okay, fair enough.
Sean Witherspoon's for sure. Should have took the cake.
Okay.
You guys let us know what you guys think. Obviously, those are Complexes. That's a majority of some of the publications, top 3, but you guys let us know what you guys think. It's probably going to be roughly the same, but you guys let us know. The next topic we're going to get into is obviously about Virgil. We can't seem to stay away from that of Virgil. Virgil Abloh announces that he is ending his I wouldn't say partnership with Nike, but he's ending the series called The 10. You guys may know it as like what shoes? The Presto,
Blazers,
97, You only named the shoe that you have.
Jordan 1s.
Jordan 1s, Air Max 97s.
Air Force 1s.
Air Force 1s, even Chuck Taylors. Probably one of the biggest and even ongoing collections that's still going on. He has about 30 styles that have come out in like totality, like crazy shit. But that whole thing is coming to an end. How do you feel about that? Because obviously it was a very, very like cutting edge. Would you call it collaboration?
Yeah,
I guess it's a collaboration.
I think it's a smart choice to end that collaboration.
I agree.
Because I think a lot of the excitement was based on the novelty of Virgil Abloh collaborating with Nike, you know? Like that was something that kind of came out of nowhere, and I think that's why people enjoyed it. And of course, like the designs were great too.
Oh, of course.
But I think you can only go so far recreating like different iterations of, you know, a blazer, of an Air Max 90, of this, of that.
Yeah.
And to be fair, like, you know, all the colorways that he's come out with, they're great.
Yeah,
you know?
they have been.
He's done great work with Nike, but I think like with the natural progression of a collaboration, I think there's a certain point where you kind of say, okay, what's the next step? Like like, you know, like with anything, like something, it has to come to an end eventually. So I think then the question again is like, what is the next step?
It's true. You have to grow out of a collaboration.
Yeah.
And this is probably one of the most, and it's not like a seasonal thing. This has been like the longest standing collaboration that I've seen in present day, right? Like it's been going on for over a year and a half, maybe a year and some change. 30 silhouettes, some of the best shoes to release thus far, sellouts all over the world, right?
Yeah.
Like he's done it.
Yeah.
So, and being who he is, obviously being a creative, it's like you said, what is next? What can I do differently? You don't ever want to be pinholed. I'm assuming as Virgil, you don't want to be pinholed as being that guy of like, these are the silhouettes I'm sticking to. This is the look I'm going for. Shit, you never know. His next collaboration could be like an Air Force One with like half of the sole cut off or something. You know, like it could be anything, but the look of like Virgil right now when it comes to Nike, everybody knows what that is. Zip tie, offset swoosh, some sort of like distressed tongue. Like, you know, it's very predictable.
And that's what I'm saying. I think that like for such a great collaboration, I think at one point it has to end because you're losing that. People were excited for.
Exactly.
Like it's not as special anymore if you keep on doing it, if you keep continuing it. It doesn't hold that same value anymore. You know?
Yeah, I agree with that. It's very unfortunate, obviously, because we haven't seen anything this. The word's not lucrative. Obviously, it's lucrative if you're reselling it, but I haven't seen anything this genuine in regards to like Nike collaborations. And this goes back to like the whole 2018 just being amazing in regards to shoes, right? They were doing collaborations with all your favorite influencers, Alayli May, Nigel Sylvester. There's probably a shit ton more. I'm not gonna say DJ Khaled, that does not count, but there's a lot. I'm guessing there's a lot more that really had these like true to self collaborations that were like really important that showed a lot of people that we look up to within our culture. So shout out to Nike. Adidas,
Nike kills this year. I'm not gonna lie. Had a phenomenal year.
That's pretty amazing. So. It's very unfortunate that Virgil. I mean, they're obviously not going to stop their collaborative efforts. He's done a lot of great shit, but the 10 is now gone. We'll see what he comes out with next, right? Okay. Topic number 3, one of our favorite dudes. I hope he watches this, and I know you're following us. Benny Gould, that of let me break it down. Benny Gould. Let me break it down. He has his own streetwear line that's been around for maybe like 10 plus years. He was the creative director and designer for Huff when it first started. He's designed the logos for Highsnobiety. I'll tell a funny story about that one. He designed the logo for MASH. He designed the logo for countless other streetwear companies that were coming out in like the early 2000s, right? So basically, and unfortunately, we're going to have to shout out a competitor, but Hypebeast Radio, one of our favorite guys, Jeff Staple, does a segment podcast, really great, where he interviews that of other what'd you call them? Creators.
I mean, he kind of labels it as like a platform for other creators, entrepreneurs, tastemakers, I guess, if you will.
And they break down like basically how their affinity for streetwear, where their brand comes from, what it takes to get to where they are today. A whole rundown of their entire life, damn near. And so this most recent interview with Benny Gould, by far, and if you've listened to him, you would know, by far one of my favorite interviews ever.
Hands down,
one of the best.
So good, yeah.
I think more so, and let me just provide some context. So Benny Gould basically starts out as a graphic designer, goes to college for graphic design, graduates, moves out to San Francisco with the goal of becoming a professional skateboarder.
Yeah.
Comes across Keith Huffnagel of Huff. Huff basically asked him, hey, you know how to draw logos, draw me a logo, and the rest is history. He draws the Huff logo, is a creative designer for Huff, does all that shit. He was actually, and this is a funny note from the actual episode, was the creative director for the entire Mervyn's Corporation.
Yeah, which I did not know.
Crazy,
yeah.
Right? Mervyn's is a subsidiary like retail store under that of Target.
If you guys don't know, what Mervyn's is,
huge, like fucking.
Just
huge.
think of like if you guys are old enough to know what Sears is, still, it's kind of like that.
Yeah, basically.
It's like a Sears and JCPenney had like a baby
on that same level of like not worldwide, but like countrywide type level of shit.
Yeah.
And he was I didn't know he was like designing shirts for Stussy, designing shirts for Nike. Like, it makes me want to go back and like try to find those designs and be like, damn, Benny Gould designed this shit. But essentially, he basically talks about his upbringing, how he gets into graphic design and all this shit and all the work he does. And I'm not gonna recite the whole episode, but it was very reminiscent of our come up.
There are definitely some parallels. I was listening
a lot
to
of
it
parallels.
And I was like, wow, that sounds a lot like what we had to do or what we have to do.
Very on point with that of our sort of come up, that of like, trying to figure out and maneuver in this industry and networking and not knowing anybody and just starting some shit.
Exactly. And not knowing where it's going to take you.
Exactly. Right. Like that first design for Huff could have gone anywhere, but that
it could not have made it.
Exactly. He could have been like, nah, I don't really fuck with this design.
Yeah.
And could have gone on.
And then his
else.
whole career trajectory could have been completely different.
Insane, man. Insane. But in the episode, he definitely touches on a lot of stuff that's very relevant to the shit that we talk about on a weekly basis. And one of the biggest things he talks about is this idea of just doing something, right? Like we say every episode, like if you have a creative endeavor or whatever, you got to just do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like it has nothing, like all the overthinking of do I have a trademark or do I have like money for it? You know what I mean? Like you don't need all the best equipment. You don't need all the whatever. Just find a way to do it. We all have smartphones, etc. But I think that was a really good point that he made within the episode.
Yeah, it was a really great, insightful episode. I think it's definitely one of the better episodes to listen to if you're, someone who's a creative or someone who's even like, maybe just even like an entrepreneur,
Yeah, definitely.
There's definitely some great insights in that episode. And I think, like you said, it really resonated with me while I was listening to it because there are definitely a lot of parallels with like what we're doing, what we did, what we're going to do. And, like Benny Gould's story and how he kind of came up. And of course, like it was a different era, completely different from what we're doing, but it's sort of still that same mindset of shit. Like, I don't really want to be working at 9 to 5 the rest of my life. I'd rather be doing my own shit.
That's a great point. And one of the concepts that he explains in his episode, or actually Jeff mentions this in his episode, is this idea of velvet handcuffs.
Yes.
Right? So velvet handcuffs, and for a lot of you that are listening, you're probably in this same situation. I know that we are.
For sure.
Because we go through it on a day-to-day basis. Velvet handcuffs basically entails that we love the 9 to 5 only if it's that of something that gives us money.
Yeah.
Right? If you're working a 9 to 5 that doesn't pay you shit, then obviously these are just like
you're gonna hate it.
Metal handcuffs, right?
Yeah.
You're just tied to this shit. But velvet handcuffs basically state that you have a creative project or something, but what fuels that creative project is your 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Your 9 to 5 is basically your source of income for anything that you do creatively outside of it, right? And that alone keeps you at that job, right? Like you don't necessarily hate it, because all the money that you earn from this 9 to 5 that
because you're comfortable with it.
You're comfortable, right? Like you're in that state of comfortability, and you don't know when or when not to leave, and you just don't know. And that's the idea of that velvet handcuff thing. It's just like, I can quit my job and sort of just go out into the world and figure things out, right? But how are you going to feed yourself? How are you going to source all the equipment that you have, everything that you need, right? So it's like, fuck, like, I don't think I trust myself enough to be able to do that stuff. But if you have a 9 to 5 and you may hate it or you may love it, whatever, and you use that money towards your creative endeavor, but it's still, your creative endeavor is still not your, like, the only thing, you know what I mean?
You're doing.
Which makes it really hard. And I love how you explain that concept. It was so good. Because it was like I feel like I was listening to myself, or like watching or like listening to the episode that he was interviewing us or something like that. It was like very on point with like how we felt on like a, I don't want to say day-to-day basis, damn near day-to-day basis, right? Oh man, but if you guys have anytime, have a chance, whatever, please go listen to this episode. I don't care about any of the other Hypebeast Radio episodes, but please listen.
If you're going to listen to one episode and one podcast episode
outside of ours,
I think that is definitely one that you should listen to for sure.
Definitely,
hands down.
Definitely.
So really good.
Now let's get into the bulk of today's episode, which is a very, very dense one. And it's not always that this happens within the streetwear industry, but for the first time ever, I would say first time, Highsnobiety, I would say ranked number 2 in regards to like streetwear cultural publications. Number 2 puts out a white paper based on this idea of the new luxury.
Yes.
Right? So a white paper, for those who don't know, is a very like scientific-y, is that a word? Scientific, businessy term. It's basically like kind of like a long form persuasive essay that provides like insight into this new issue and basically gives the reader the option of either finding a solution, it either exposes them to the problem, or basically, I don't know, it basically does one of two things. It provides you an issue and it gives you sort of two reactions. I either just accept the issue or I come up with a solution to the issue.
Yeah.
And so this idea that Highsnobiety is proposing through this white paper is that there's this new mindset for that of millennials called the new luxury.
Yeah.
And we talked about this previously in an episode where we sort of, what was the episode about where we sort of did the, we covered this idea of like the new mindset within streetwear. It was like what was it?
That's like every episode.
No, but it was like a very particular
Was it
one.
streetwear economics?
That was it.
Yeah.
That was it. So we were talking about like where streetwear is being taken and sort of the ramifications of how streetwear affects our own personal selves, our psyches, our pockets, a little bit of everything, right? So Highsnobiety comes up with this new concept called the new luxury that talks about how basically it's no longer about the cost of the item that we care about anymore. It's about what do we know about this item? What does everybody else not know about this item? This is what luxury is to us now, right?
It doesn't mean like, and the way that they kind of break it down is that it doesn't mean that luxury doesn't mean that an item is $3,000 as opposed to like a $300 item.
Yes, exactly.
Luxury now, according to like, or sorry, did I say Hypebeast?
Highsnobiety.
Highsnobiety. According to them, it means that something that has more value over this other thing. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's actually like actual monetary value or, you know, some sort of like extrinsic value like we were talking about. So
now this thing is very, very dense. It's 27 pages long And the creator of Highsnobiety, for those who don't know, his name is David Fisher. And he basically says that this white paper is used to sort of inform the culture, the Highsnobiety readers, of this new concept, this new understanding of the streetwear industry and how it affects us in that of new people who want to jump in, right? Because we've seen it, Supreme and Louis Vuitton, a lot of these outside industries buying that of, where's that place that they do sneaker shopping at?
Stadium Goods.
Stadium Goods,
Yeah.
investing in Supreme. There's a lot of money in this shit now, right? Everybody wants a piece of streetwear because streetwear is now, as he describes it, the new luxury. So what we're going to do is we're going to provide a little bit of context. And like I said, this shit is very fucking dense. So I'm going to need some notes, right?
Yeah.
So let me get it. All right.
You know, we had an intern to do this, but they fell asleep, so it's fine.
All right, let's get into this. Okay, so basically the understanding is that this new luxury is based around this idea of affirmational commodities. So our self-esteem, how we feel about ourselves, is generated from things that we own.
Yes.
Right? But before, luxury was related to price, right? So if I had a more expensive watch, I'd feel like I was cooler than that of a person who had a cheaper watch.
Exactly.
Right? So that was the understanding previously. But now this idea of new luxury is based around knowledge and access, right? So for example, let's talk, what's a good example of that? Let's just say Supreme.
Sure.
Right? Box logos are obviously a huge topic when it comes to, you know, what people have and don't have, because only a small percentage of people ever actually get to own one.
Yeah.
So we talk about knowledge and access as related to a box logo. It takes information to figure out how to get that shit. It sells that in like, what, 6 seconds, 5 seconds? Like, it's not an easy item to buy.
Yeah, and then, you know, then again, that's what we're talking about, you know, cash and price, like the price of the item versus access to the item.
Yes.
And sort of the perception of luxury has shifted from how much an item is worth, because how much is a box logo t-shirt?
Oh, like $60
at most, like after tax and shipping, right?
Yeah.
And that's not a lot.
$60.
I mean, to some people, to be fair, to some people that might be a lot, but to the average streetwear consumer, that's not a lot of money.
That's not.
You know,
It's not.
But its value is really found in who has access to that t-shirt,
Yes.
who has it, who doesn't. you know?
Yes. And that access nowadays takes into like a lot of different shapes. Like an example would be like, who has a bot, right? Who's selling like deep links to the actual box logo prior to it being released, right? Like if you have these things, you have an added benefit, or you're even a step ahead that of the person next to you, because all they're doing is clicking on shop and going to view all, and hopefully just having enough time to actually click on it and buy it, right?
Yeah.
Who has an autofill, right? Who has their credit card information like laser engraved on their computer screen, so when they click on the item and they click add to cart, it checks out in a second, right?
Yeah.
When you have access to that information, you have that knowledge, it makes these items worth more,
Exactly.
because it takes more work.
Yeah, and I think that's the whole thing, again, going back to price, is that before, a lot of people couldn't afford to have access to X, Y, and Z. But now with their, you know, like goods being plentiful, whether it's like streetwear, whether it's like this and that, which usually the price points aren't super high. It's more so, again, about who has access to it, who can get their hands on it.
Yeah. Another good example, and like to your point, it makes a lot of sense. Like, look at the top 3 shoes that released this year, right? Nike Reacts release at retail price of like,
I think 160.
160, right?
Yeah.
Yeezys or Off-White Air Force Ones release at maybe like 2 something.
No.
Okay, let's use Yeezys as an example. Yeezys release at maybe like 220.
Yeah.
Right? The price difference is there. You think about 350s that are like super widespread. You pay almost $260 after taxes for them. And you pay one something for the Reacts. And then you look at it and you're like, okay, like obviously this person spent way more money on the Yeezys. They must be cooler, right? The person that's wearing them, they must know their shit. But if you really know streetwear culture and you see like when the shoes come out, you would know that those Reacts are worth more. Like internally, I don't know how to describe it. It's like it's worth more on the street.
Yeah, because I think, you know, going back to the roots of streetwear, I don't think that streetwear is ever about price or what you can buy this or sell this at.
That's a good point.
I think it was more so about it's more so about access, and it's more so about other things, like not necessarily because luxury, again, it's one of those things where there's a barrier to entry, the price, obviously, because like if you only make like $6 an hour, obviously you're not going to buy like $1,000 leather jacket, whatever, you know, whatever it is. But I think with streetwear, it's more so about, again, like we talk about the supreme model, who has access to this, who has access to that. You know
Not a lot of people at the end of the day, right? Okay, so now that we understand this idea of like this new luxury mindset where it's no longer about what it costs or just simply having it. It's about being knowledgeable, being in the culture. That's what people want. That people want to be a part of. I don't even know if I can call it like a movement. They just want to be a part of the wave, whatever, right? So
they want to be that person.
They want to be that person, right? We don't idolize that of the person that has the fancy shit. We want to be the person that knows the person that knows the person that can get you the fancy shit, right? Yeah. It's a really weird dichotomy, but we're trying to understand it. So let's get into this then. Why isn't that just having exclusive products, right? Rare products. Why isn't that enough nowadays? It's okay if it's expensive, and it's okay if it's rare, but sometimes it's just not enough to make it for what it is.
One, because I think rare products aren't rare anymore. That's
true.
Every week there's something rare coming out. So if you can't get this thing that's rare, you can get the next thing that's rare, or you can get this or that. You know, I think there's just a plethora of options for everybody to kind of go through. And if you can't get one, or if you like, you know, out of 100 releases, like you're bound to get at least one.
Everything's limited to like a number or like limited to certain shops. Everybody has collaborations, like to our point. Yeah. So it is a good point. Like rarity is common.
It's almost non-existent
right?
these days.
Yeah, like there's no such thing as like something that's rare because you can get it anywhere now, right? Yeah. It's not just one store in your city that you can go to get this product. You have Sneaker News releases a drop list of 20 different links that you could enter raffles to, and your chances even go up. Bots, all that shit. So, like to your point, it really does change the landscape of how we see rare things as a commodity, because no longer are things actually rare. They're more widespread.
Exactly.
Shit, man, things are changing. Sure. So, which brands are doing it? Which brands do we see that are taking on this new luxury mindset?
I mean, obviously you have streetwear brands like Supreme that are doing it. You have sportswear brands like Nike that are doing it. You know, just like basically everybody in the game. I think if you're not doing it, then
there's something wrong.
Yeah, you're kind of falling behind.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we're going to do, and because this thing is so fucking dense, we're not going to break down everything that this white paper breaks down. But one thing that I thought would be really fun is there's a lot of stats in this this white paper. Yeah. And what Highsnobiety did is they hired a research company to interview people that, you know, are subscribers or readers to Highsnobiety. They put them in this pool and asked them a bunch of questions and generated this sort of consensus that bases the whole idea of new luxury around these people, right? Highsnobiety readers predominantly. So let's go through some of these stats and see if me and you sort of are on par with what they say.
Sure.
Obviously, we read Highsnobiety, but, you know, we might be one-offs. We might be different. Who knows? Okay. 85% of people believe that what their clothes represent is just as important as their quality or design.
That's a pretty high number.
I believe that.
I believe it too. I think that definitely the majority of us think that what you put on your body is a visual representation of who you are, the things that you resonate with. And I think like that statistic, 85%, like that seems fair. I think
it's fair.
Yeah.
I wear Carhartt because I want people to know I'm a hard worker. Like that's why I wear it. It's like, this is rugged. This is, you don't know about this. This is, you can only get this. Well, I mean, you can get it anywhere at this point, but it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, haha, dumbass, you got a medium, you got true to size in Carhartt. You know that shit fits big. You didn't know that. Like, that's the sort of like representation I take from it. It's less about like, oh, I love how this fits or I love the logo. It's more so like, I like the backstory of it. I love that part.
Like we talked about earlier while we were shooting this shit. It's about storytelling. I think. And I think that's a huge part of it.
You know, to that point, that transition of like storytelling and like brands running these like experiences.
Yeah,
that's gonna be 2019.
Yeah,
like every brand is gonna have a backstory to a shoe, to a collaboration, a clothing line, whatever, and they're gonna have some sort of crazy experience based around it.
Yeah, and I think that circles back to what we just talked about in terms of like price versus access. Like a lot of these things, a lot of these experiences you don't have to pay for, but it's more so I'm here and you're not.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's free.
No, that's the biggest piece.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's
I'm
the
here and you're
biggest
not.
piece.
Doesn't matter if it's free. Like, this is how it is. Like, you're not here right now. You're at home, and I'm living this life.
Okay, hold that thought, because we're gonna get into that in a second. Highsnobiety covers a section of why people attend these experiences / festivals, and that is a great start. The next stat we're gonna read off is only 6% of Highsnobiety readers state that they purchase products as a direct expression of wealth.
I find that pretty low, to be honest.
That's so low. It should be switched with the other. It should be like 85%.
I think that a lot of people don't want to admit that they tend to purchase things just as an expression of, I got it, you don't. You know what I'm saying? In terms of like, I got it, like I have the means to purchase this.
That's a huge part of why I purchase clothes, right? If I have something expensive, I low key want somebody to ask like, yo, that is really cool. How much was that? Or like, where'd you get that from? Which kind of coincides with that of the price. But I kind of agree with it. I mean, the statistics should be higher.
Yeah.
But I think a lot more people need that affirmation that my clothes were really expensive.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people do that.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. The next one. 91% of Highsnobiety readers can identify the designers and creatives behind their favorite brands.
I agree.
I agree, yep.
Again, this just goes back to us being more connected than ever. I think that maybe 10 years ago, if you asked somebody who designed this or who designed that, they probably couldn't give you an answer.
Everyone's a fucking enigma at that point. Like, who's who?
Yeah, but I think that like just visibility in terms of the age that we live in, 2018, I think that, you know, everybody knows every designer. Like, of course, Virgil Abloh, Off-White, Louis Vuitton. Like, these designers, like we talked about in previous episodes, they almost hold celebrity status to the point where you know who they're hanging out with, you know where they live, you know everything about them.
You know, they're the friends of their friends.
Exactly.
And you follow them.
Exactly.
Right?
So that's not a hard statistic to believe.
Because it all ties back to like this idea of like knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Like sometimes, and I've seen this before, the friend of Virgil Abloh will leak an image of this shoe, or like he'll get a sample pair early, and then that's how you know that shit's gonna come out, right?
Yeah.
Like it's all about the access to knowledge. So if it takes following the designer of my favorite shoe to find out when that future shoe is gonna come out, then shit, I'm gonna have to do that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's get into some a bit, I want to say, negative statistics.
Sure.
89% say that they can tell when the people behind a brand are part of the culture they seek to represent, or whether they're just co-opting it. For those who don't know what the word co-opting it basically means, that they are gentrifying streetwear.
Yeah.
Essentially.
I agree and disagree with the statistic. I think that in the streetwear industry, it's definitely easy to see who is really part of the culture, who really wants to represent and who really wants to storytell what streetwear is. And I think it's definitely easy to see who isn't and who's just out there looking to make a quick buck.
I would say that, yeah. I think with industry, like being genuine is very like it's easy to notice within streetwear.
Yeah, but then again, if you think about this is not a hard statistic. Like you can't measure what designer is actually for the culture and who isn't. Like that's not.
Yeah, it's not like a true false question.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like the GDP of the United States. Yeah. Like you can't measure that. You know,
that's true.
It's definitely subjective, but I agree that it's easy to tell when somebody, not even related to streetwear, it's easy to tell when somebody is faking it, or being genuine. I think
in general, in just life,
exactly.
If they're genuine or fake, you know what I mean. So I think we have a good gauge of like how people move within the industry. So we know if it's just like a money ploy, if we know it's just like a collaboration for the sake of collaborating, we know that. So I would say like 89% is roughly like where I would.
And again, like these statistics that we're kind of going over, like they're not hard and fast. Like,
yes, they're
like it's not like the infant mortality rate.
No,
like we can't count like how many
physical people that say there's no way.
Yeah.
These are all like I'm gonna say more so like qualitative. Like these are just like expressions of like how people feel rather than like counting
hard
like,
facts.
One or two you love streetwear, you don't love streetwear. Like it's not possible.
They're not going up to like Virgil Abloh and saying like, all right, put this lie detector test on.
Yeah. So please take heed to these statistics, but it's a general path that you can follow to understand.
It's
like
more like
where
it's more like a
we are.
survey. If anything,
I would say that. Okay, let's do like two more. This is a good one. 2/3 of readers, Highsnobiety readers, believe that the products someone wears convey whether that person is culturally knowledgeable.
I kind of disagree with this one.
What?
2/3 of readers believe that the products someone wears convey whether that person is culturally knowledgeable. No, I don't agree.
You don't agree with that?
I think that you can literally know nothing about a brand and still be able to wear it. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that definitely happens. Like how many people do you see wearing a Supreme shirt, for instance? Okay, we talk about Supreme, we get it. Okay, yeah. But how many people do you see wearing like a Supreme shirt, but maybe they don't know the cultural significance? Or how about this even? How about you see a person wearing a collaboration that Supreme did with an artist, let's say Damien Hirst, or let's say whoever, X, Y, and Z.
Good point.
Blank, you name it. How many people do you think, like out of 10 people that own that shirt, how many people do you think actually know who Damien Hirst or
probably
that artist?
One?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, just because you own something, just because you wear something, because you're a consumer of something, doesn't mean you're knowledgeable about that, whatever it is, you know?
No, I believe that wholeheartedly.
I could buy tables, for instance.
We don't know anything about tables.
I know nothing about tables. I don't know anything about who designed this table. I don't know what kind of wood this is. Like, I don't know, you know?
That's true.
But I need a table, so I'm going to buy it.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I think the statistic, 2/3, I think is relatively low. I would say like a lot of us, we are all fairly judgmental when it comes to seeing people with clothing on, right?
Yeah.
I see somebody with, and it's like a weird bias sometimes. Like I know it sucks to like put people in a box when you see them like off the bat, but sometimes that's kind of what branding does to begin with, right?
Yeah.
It says you chose this because you have these aspirations to fit into this mold that this brand has created.
Yeah.
So if you're wearing Supreme, whether you got that as a gift or whether you bought it from the online store or waited in line, you fit in this box of potentially knowing a little bit about skateboarding.
Exactly.
You may know a little bit about being a hype beast, or like you just know things, and maybe it's just an attachment that a lot of people place on to other people that wear brands.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of like a commonality amongst a lot of people because we are fairly judgmental creatures in a sense, you know?
But if you think about it, what is being culturally knowledgeable?
That's the part that fucks me over.
What is the threshold for being culturally knowledgeable? Because again, this is like one of those subjective statistics. Like, what is the definition of culturally knowledgeable, and where do certain people fit on that spectrum?
Okay, maybe they should have changed it. So culturally knowledgeable is it's kind of like a word you throw in the air.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like if they were to say like knowledgeable within the world of like street fashion or like something along the lines where it's just like fashion or like I don't know, but they could have reworded it differently because when you say culturally knowledgeable, are you referring to that of like streetwear culture or like fashion culture? You know what I mean? Because obviously if you see someone wearing clothing, you're going to assume like they purchased that with the intent of knowing the brand.
Yeah.
Because that's what a lot of people do. I mean, especially with the more expensive ones, right? When they talk about luxurious items, it's like you have the knowledge, you bought this because you know what that item means and you wear it because all this is all encompassing.
So in that sense, are you culturally knowledgeable? Because like you said before,
well, that's what I'm saying is take the word culturally out, put in something else that's relatable to that of like fashion.
But even knowledgeable then is like, that's still up in the air until we define that fully. Because like you said, what defines like, for instance, like going back to skate brands, someone who wears a skate brand, what does being knowledgeable about skateboarding actually mean? Like, how do you define that?
How do you define knowledgeable?
Like, does knowledgeable in terms of skateboarding mean that you actually skate or actually like try skating, whether or not you're good at it?
I know
or does it mean like you follow it? Like, does it mean like you know of it slightly? Like, what is that?
Maybe just the act of just knowing.
Sure.
I don't know how that ties back to being culturally knowledgeable. It is a very like random word, but I guess it's just like being aware.
Yeah.
Maybe they should have just.
I just think a lot of these terms are like very ambiguous in terms of.
Oh yeah, for sure.
What is the definition of this or what is the definition of that? You know.
I agree. All right, let's move on to the next one.
Sure.
Let's talk about something that we've talked about in multiple episodes. Let's talk about these events, right?
Yeah.
Complex Con, Agenda, fucking fashion runway shows. Highsnobiety breaks down the top reasons, and you could agree or disagree, the top reasons to attend a fashion event. We're going to talk, this is, like I just said, Complex Con, Hype East Fest, whatever, Hype Fest. Those all count as a fashion event.
Sure.
Number one of the top reasons is the chance to obtain products that are available exclusively for attendees.
Off top.
Agreed.
Instant.
I feel like
that's
that is the number one reason why you would attend, right? You want the limited products. You want to flex those products to say like you said earlier, I'm here, you're not. This is what I get for it, right? Okay. Number two, experiences and moments worth sharing via social media.
Yes. 100%.
Very on point. Number three, this one I disagree with. Meeting people that share the same interests and passions.
I think I agree in that this definitely falls behind the other two. I like it. I like this. Like, I agree with these three in this order. Yeah.
I feel like number three could have been something different.
Like what?
The other two are very broad.
But they work though. Like,
it does.
You know that everybody's going to Complex Con because they want to get like the collaboration.
Of
they
course,
want to get this at this
No.
know?
The first two are on point. Like they're very on point with like why you would attend these events. But number three of like meeting people and talk, like I don't see that. You know what I mean? Everybody's just in line, waiting to get their shit, waiting to leave, waiting to upload it, ready to sell it. Like I think like that's like one of the main reasons why people go to these things. I don't know about the meeting people part.
I don't think so.
Maybe because I haven't personally been to any of these events, so I'm gonna take that L. But like still, I just don't think that's why people go to these things.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not like a meetup.
It's not. I mean, you definitely have a lot of like-minded people there. Obviously, you know, like everybody's there for the same fucking reason. But I don't think that's one of the big reasons why you go to those things. I think if you just left it at the top two,
like leave it at the top two. Like this is the only reason
to, you know, show on social media. I think that would have sufficed. That would have summed up like Complex Con.
Okay, I think we're very like in agreement with that top three list.
Yeah.
Okay, the last one. I think this is an important one.
Sure, man.
And we'll end it there because I think we've been going on for a pretty fucking long
Thank
time.
God.
It feels like it's been longer than an hour. Okay. Because we've had questions about this one before, and this is something that definitely impacts those of you watching and listening. But 65% of people, Highsnobiety readers personally, have been influenced by their friends to buy brands that speak to their shared values.
I agree for sure. I mean, let's look at this in terms of like you and me.
Okay.
Like I don't know. Like there are definitely times where Like you'll mention something and I'll be like, oh, you're right, that is kind of sick. But I don't think I would go out of my way to buy it
course.
if it doesn't resonate with me.
That's fair.
But you know what? To be fair, those are just like the type of people. Those are the types of people that we are.
Yeah.
You know, like if something doesn't really speak to us, then we won't buy it, regardless of whether or not like you or I wore it.
It does.
You know
It does definitely depend on the type of person you are. Like some people are super impressionable.
Yeah.
In regards to like, they will look up to, you know, their cool friend or their older brother, and once they see them wearing something, then they immediately hop on that.
You know what it is too? I think it's sort of what stage you're at in
the journey,
the
like
journey
the
of being like interested in
got
streetwear.
it.
Because like you and I, we've been interested in streetwear. We've enjoyed streetwear since we were younger.
Yeah.
So obviously, we're not. It's we're not as naive, quote unquote.
Yeah.
As to like what brands are about or what brands that we like. You know,
the streetwear landscape is so wide. Like if
Yeah.
I were to first come into this and be like, okay, like, I'm ready to be cool. Like, what do I
What's
wear?
my starter kit?
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
oh shit, there's so many jean options, and like, I would be so confused.
Yeah.
So I would look to the person like that I maybe aspire to be. I would just fucking dress up as Virgil.
Yeah.
And that's why so many people dress up as Kanye when he was like into the large like drapey zombie garb. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I love Kanye, and this is my first intro to this shit, so I guess I'm just gonna wear that,
guess. Yeah,
right? Like, I'm
exactly.
just gonna look like him.
Yeah, exactly. It's like in the video game when you don't really have shit. You just kind of have the shit that they give you. You know,
The
shit that
stock
they hand to you.
clothing.
Yeah, the stock clothing. And then as like you further progress in the game, you're like, okay,
You're
for
fitted.
sure.
You're super
Yeah,
fitted.
Exactly.
No, I agree with that. I think 65 is definitely a low number. I think obviously the statistic, which is very general, which I'm starting to realize a lot of these things are, but 65% is definitely kind of low. I think we are all influenced by that of maybe friends / influencers to buy brands that speak to our shared values. It could be anything. If we love the same music, we're gonna wear the merch of that band, whatever, you know. And nowadays with like the La Flame fits and like all, you see the outfits of all your favorite rappers and artists wearing, you're definitely gonna start to look like them.
Yeah, and I think like this kind of hones in very specifically onto friends, which again is a very general term because how do you define friends? Some people may define that
What are
differently.
friends?
Yeah,
What
exactly.
are friends?
But I think I don't know. Like,
But it's a good point.
Yeah.
Like I agree that we're all influenced by friends to buy brands, but you made a really good point in saying it depends on where you are in this cycle, the streetwear cycle.
Yeah.
Right? You've been around the game for a little bit, you have brands that you've grown to love and you have an affinity for, and you're continuously gonna wear and follow every release or whatever. Maybe depending on, you know, what switches up in your life, you meet a new girl, you meet a new guy, I don't know. It depends.
it's 2018
then
again.
then you may jump into another field of clothing, whatever. You know?
Again, like we talked about, it depends on where you're at in your quote unquote streetwear journey. But I think as you kind of progress through that journey, you kind of figure out what you like and what you don't like. Again, what we always talk about in almost every episode.
That's a good point.
And that really controls what and who you're being influenced.
Yes.
By, you know.
And there's a lot of influences out there, so choose wisely, please.
Yes.
But I think that's good. I think that's a good place to stop. We've been talking for a little bit over, I'm going to assume an hour. I know you sitting in front of the TV screen, you're probably stupid tired from watching us talk. But on that note, we appreciate you guys listening and watching, for those that are watching. And we will see you next week. Remember, be sure to follow, like, subscribe, whatever you need to do in regards to following us for future videos. We're going to be here for a long fucking time. So hop on the wave now. And on that note, we will catch you next week. Peace.